May all your delulu become a drululu. Okay. Hey guys, it's Jamie, and I wanted to go over just some thoughts that I've been wanting to get out there for people. So I figured when best to do it than while I'm doodling and practicing. I'm using my favorite charcoal powder, and I think you can get these at Walmart or any craft store, really. Just be really careful because a little bit goes a really long way. Um, I know the video is kind of blurry and smudgy, but trust me, I barely dabbled in it. And you'll see later on in the video that it all collects at the bottom of the page because gravity, and it comes out very potent whenever it's a lot. Um, but yeah, this is more so just a doodle. I usually like to go off of pictures, but it's a good practice to go off of just my imagination and creating what I can. It's not my best, but it's really good to just express yourself in that way. So I wanted to go over kind of just what led me to choosing this as a lifestyle, as far as making my income based off of my art, making this my career, my work. And I guess you could say that I was born with a talent. I've always been good with art, and I take feedback pretty well from my teachers. So anytime they would recommend me do something one way, I would just absorb it like a sponge, and people took a liking to it. But growing up, people always told me that I should be an artist, but I never believed them because the town I was in, it didn't have a lot of art promotion and art appreciation um, until these past few years. Actually, my husband and I started coming to Galveston and visiting almost every weekend. And I got to see all of the art that was just appreciated and succeeding and selling. And it made me really, for the first time in my life, believe that I, I could do that. So I went from believing I could do that to being really frustrated that I'm not doing that. It took about 4 or 5 years of me seeing this till I finally committed that this is something I need to try. I need to do and see for myself what that world is like. About 2 years ago, we moved here, and I was still working in an insurance business. I built a book of clients of about 300, and I built a team and I trained everybody on that team, and I dedicated a lot of time to it. When it came time to deciding if I want to quit or not, it was a lot of back and forth. It's not something I took lightly because that was the way I help take care of my family. I have a husband and a son, and it was really unsure. I was really unsure if that's something I wanted to do. But I couldn't put away that feeling of you just have to figure it out. You have to try. So while I was working, we tried cutting my hours, we tried changing up a few things, but nothing seemed to fit. And I think it was just because even whenever I was home, my brain was still thinking about the insurance world, about my team, about my clients, about everything except for art. And then by the time it was time to create, I wasn't inspired. I couldn't think of what to do. I didn't have an idea of what direction to go in, and it wasn't working. My brain could only function in so many directions at once. So I took the plunge and decided that it's time to let that go. But guess the good thing is I learned a lot from that world. I learned how to run a business. I learned about quarterly check-ins. I learned about budgeting. I learned about how to make goals and how to plan out goals realistically and how to network. And I learned a lot. So everything happens for a reason, most definitely. Absolutely. Um, so now that I'm here in Galveston, I am surrounded by a really really beautiful community. There's so many artists here that are appreciated. There's so many artists here that are open to giving advice and helping out. And it's just a wonderful community. Um, I definitely forgot to mention earlier, but the charcoal I'm using, my father-in-law made that in his fire pit. He put some sticks in an Altoids box and roasted it overnight. And he said that it would probably be fun to draw with, and he is correct. I actually prefer these over the pencil charcoals because they go along so well on the paper, and they don't dent the paper, they don't ruin the paper, and they're not as messy, believe it or not. It's pretty cool. They are super fragile though. You can just hear the fragility in them. um, Something I try to remember whenever I am drawing is to think of the light source. Where is the light shining from? Where do I need to keep my highlights? Where do I put my shadows? This is one of those moments where I acknowledge that I'm far better looking at a picture than I am going off the top of my head in my imagination, because in my imagination there are no highlights. Um, so it's a good challenge to think of where the light source is coming from and sticking to it. So for this practice, the light source is coming from the top left corner. It's supposed to be. I don't know if I portrayed that well enough, but it's supposed to be. So later on, I'm going to be putting highlights on the ridge of her nose, on the lips, on the chin, on the cheekbone, because ideally that would be the lightest spot. It's definitely a dark picture because I'm using charcoal. I do like to use charcoal for a lot of my portraits, um, but it really is an exercise that I have to get comfortable with for just going off of what I imagine in my head. If I had a picture to guide me, this would be a very different energy, different style. But that's why it's called practice. And the more you do it, the better you're going to get. I'm currently using a paintbrush because with charcoal, it tends to shade it a lot easier. I have the little twisty white papers. I was told they were called tortillions, but those seem to be a bit rougher. They smear rougher. They're they make an annoying noise. They are helpful, but in a time of just relaxing, I like the paintbrushes. It comes on nicely and it makes a big difference. It smooths a lot nicer too onto the paper. And if I make a mistake and I want to erase it, it comes off a lot easier if I just use a paintbrush to put it on. Silly, huh? Here I am going in with the shadows of the darker parts. Again, the light source is supposed to be coming from the top left corner. So that means the shadows are going to be towards the right edge and the bottom right corner, the darker parts of it. It's supposed to be a hooded figure. I've been trying to figure out how to draw hoods without a picture. Talk about a challenge on top of another challenge, but we're doing it. And so I bet at the end of the year, they're gonna look beautiful. But right now, it's chicken scratch, and I gotta do it. You gotta get through the beginning to get to the end. Otherwise, you're never gonna get there. It is interesting to see myself focus on my work. It's interesting to see me lost in thought. And I don't know what I was thinking. I don't know if I was thinking. Maybe I was planning for dinner. Maybe I was planning for my art career. Maybe I was thinking about bills. Or maybe I just wasn't thinking at all, which is really nice. I tend to do that a lot whenever I'm drawing, which is why I forget about highlights and I forget about proportions because I'm just not thinking and I'm not stressing out about it because this is my space. This is my world and this is my peace and my creativity. You can see all the charcoal smudges on my face, which is really funny because my hands are so dirty. That's also one of my favorite things about charcoal is that you just get smudges everywhere. Um, my desk was covered in charcoal and my arms were getting dirty and my shirt was getting dirty and everything was getting dirty, and there's no point in trying to cover it because it's just gonna get everywhere, and that's okay. It's one of my favorite things, actually. I usually get excited and I show my son and I rub my fingers all over him to make him dirty too, but he's usually dirty because he's in the dirt all the time. One of my goals for this year is to be able to draw proportionally correct with highlights, just out of my imagination without having a guidance, without having a reference. Something I've been wanting to do is just look in a mirror and draw myself as a self portrait. The last time I did that was probably sixth or seventh grade in junior high. I still have the picture. It would be really interesting to compare the two different styles, different techniques. Maybe I grew, maybe I didn't. That's definitely something I want to do this year. Either way, it's going to look awesome. This is one of my favorite tools because it's just a really fine point eraser. It behaves like a mechanical pencil, but it's all eraser instead of lead. And the details of what I can make with this, make it for highlights. I can get into the nooks and crannies and erase something that I don't want there. Really precise. I recommend it. I got it from my art supply store for just a couple dollars. It wasn't that bad. So I'm putting in the highlights because, again, the light source is supposed to be coming from the top left in my imagination. So I'm putting it on the eyelids, the cheekbones, the nose ridge, the tips of the lips, and a little bit on the chin. The camera kind of blurred, but it was my look at the camera saying, yeah, right. Again, it's not my favorite, but it's a good exercise. There's no shame in not doing your best work, but trying. In fact, everybody should try more at something that they know they're not good at, but they want to be good at. This charcoal piece is just like a brick. It's like a piece of chalk, basically. And I'm going in with the extra dark spots, the hair, the inside of the hood, the underside, or the bottom right side of the hood. Yeah. So I guess this is my first tutorial of my art, and I hope you like it. I hope you're still watching. If you have any questions, put them in the comments. Please subscribe to my channel. Please share with your family and friends. Please play this on the background while you're doing other things as background noise so I can level up in the YouTube world. That would really help. If there's anything you want me to try to teach, let me know. And this is just the beginning. I hope you'll have a good day. Thank you. Bye, y'all.